Hey friends, I was run. I tried to make this video and I was like, I didn't have enough free space, so I had to like delete a bunch of stuff, and I'm trying it again. Um, I ran across an interesting question. I'd like to hear other people's input on this because it was, what brings a person to believe in God? And I was like, that is a fascinating question. I wonder what brings people to believe in God. So I was kind of reflecting on my own journey, um, and I think it starts off in childhood with me. I never had a father, and I had a very abusive stepfather who took his place. So I always had a father shaped hole in my heart, and I've always tried to fill that with the wrong things. Um, I never processed that too much until I'm still processing it now. But when I got into my teenage years, um, my abusive stepdad, I think when I was 16, ended up leaving. My mom broke up with him, and he just left one day, and I was like, what in the world? Like when that structure was there and that abuse and these difficult things, when it like dropped off the map, I was like without a tether, because to keep my structure in line and to keep my myself balanced, I had to have you know um a nasty person there. I had to have a nasty person who like just kind of made me feel um persecuted. I don't even know of it. And then I had my mom, who was great, and it was difficult when he left. And then I got real bad into drugs, real bad into Xanax, because it was like ups and downs. It was like, I feel good now, I feel bad, and I imagine it was the exact same thing with the parent dynamic. I always had to have something that makes me feel good, and then I have to have something that makes me feel bad on top of it. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. Um, Real bad into drugs, real bad into Xanax. Um, And like meanwhile, this whole time I've always had a belief in God, but the belief in God was not something I acted on. I just believed it. I was like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure there's a God, but it's like, it just made me feel comfortable, um, and like a little bit secure. So I never really took it that seriously, obviously, by my actions. And I got so bad into drugs and Xanax, and I started stealing stuff and guns and breaking into stuff and just like promiscuous and just going nuts, um just rebelling, and um when I was 20 something, actually I went to jail for a lot of those things, for stealing guns. And I'm gonna try to get this straight so it makes sense to people. Sometimes I get a little carried away in my own thoughts, but while I was doing all these things, while I'm stealing, while I'm doing all these things, I'm not getting caught for it. So the sin is like culminating in my mind, and it's building a great amount of like subconscious stress that's not being dealt with. It's like a pressure cooker of like sin and like unchecked bad actions that are having no repercussions. Not only that, but I'm compiling Xanax on top of these feelings. So it's like these feelings are getting stuffed somewhere so hard that it's like one day I absolutely had like the gnarliest mental breakdown. And that just reminds me of the discipline and the mighty right hand of God. I was like, bah, like, oh my gosh, my entire identity shattered, who I thought I was. Like, I recognize myself as like, like untouchable, and this person who was like firm in their identity and confident I could pull, chicks and do whatever I wanted. And that just like completely shattered one day. And like I went into heavy depersonalization, heavy anxiety, totally split off. I was shameful. I was full of shame and embarrassment and like these bad things. And I was like, what in the world is happening? So I was like horribly trying to deal with that. And I had no foundation. I had nothing. So I was just trying to deal with it out of an impossibility to deal with it. And I ended up with my mom in 2014 moving to Minnesota, still dealing with the same problems. Found a doctor who loved to prescribe Xanax, and I kept going on that. And eventually, I found a girlfriend and seeked her, and she was hard and stern on one side and compassionate on another, and I was still heavily using Xanax, so it was like totally what I was used to. You know, I like domineering women. Um, and, you know, she went off and did something with somebody while we were still living together. And I was like, oh, you know, just irritated with the world and still using, and moved out of her house, moved back in my mom's, and started doing Xanax still there. And finally, I was like listening to something about Jesus on the phone, and just something about that was like, I gotta get my stuff together because I'm like tired of being a loser, and I'm tired of depending on this stupid pill to do everything. So I did. I quit. You know, I had a little weird episode with that, but I don't even think I ever relapsed. I relapsed once and had a horrible vision of hell. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done for sure this time. And I kept going and never went back, never touched the stuff since. Um, and then I really, after that, heavily dove into this like new age stuff. And like, once again, I was into it because it was like comforting. It was like, oh yeah, you know, like everything you're just gonna have to yin and yang and all this, and you know, karma, and like, you know, just get reincarnated and learn that. But it was like all what I wanted it to be. And I finally came to the conclusion of like, dude, I'm like tired of filling my head with these things that I think are gonna make me feel comfortable. Like, I want the truth. I'm done with like this stuff that is like what I want it to be. I want something to be what it is, like objectively, and like not move from that, and like, you know, the truth, and then I will like fall in line with that. And I just like was after it. I was always after it, and I was like, where is it? And I remember I heard a parable on the phone, on my YouTube videos when I was in the New Age stuff. I like tripped over to like Gnostic Jesus stuff, which I don't know if it's super legit, but anyway, it got my attention, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh, huh, this is interesting. It's like a parable, you know, there's deep meaning here, and I got to figure out what it is. So I listened to that, and I was like, all right. And then and I went over, I started reading the real parables and hearing about those. And at the time, you know, around these last 4 years or so, I had a new girlfriend, and she um, was Christian and was telling me about that. And I was like, huh. You know, so I had questions, and I asked a couple questions. She was very knowledgeable and smart about it when I answer questions well. Um, and I like, all right, and the ball started rolling. And then this last year in September, I like dove in like head first. I don't know what happened, but I was like, Lord, if this is it, just like, I'm ready. I'm ready to submit. I'm ready to obey. I'm ready to conform to like what you want me to be, and I'm gonna be who you want me to be, and just, you know, let me know. And it's like one thing after another, change after change after change after change, and it's like I was like, there was like nothing I've ever experienced. It was like my tastes were changing, my values were changing, my relationships were changing, what I was doing was changing, how I was thinking was changing. Um, like what I was attached to, I no longer like lusted after these things. It's like the only thing I cared about that I found to be of any kind of importance was Christ. And I was like, there is like real substance here, like real food, real drink. And I like found it, but it was so much different than I thought it was. Because I became so much more aware of like how messed up we are, and like what sin means. And this goes for myself as well, 100%. But I had an image of myself that I worshiped that was based out of trauma and fear and lust and greed and trying to get all these things and pride. And you serve that, you do things, you buy things, you try to find other people to fulfill these things. And it's like people like to look everywhere else but God to fill this hole with these things that are like totally empty. You know, it's like you just bombard yourself with all these things hoping that, you know, that hook's going to catch a fish, you know what I mean? But it's like it never will. It just, and I started to realize that. I started to look at myself like, what am I seeking here? Like, what is going on? And the more I like just followed Christ, and I started reading the Bible every day, and like, you know, just doing all these things I could think was helping. I mean, I could rattle off a bunch of things. I mean, I pray a lot. I read the Bible every day. I cut out some relationships that were an idol as well. Like even my relationship was idol because like I wanted to serve this woman. I wanted to be everything I could be for her. You know what I mean? But it was unhealthy because it's just, uh, that's just a difficult situation. Um, you just almost worship the person to fulfill you emotionally instead of dealing with these underlying feelings and conditions. You want to be something so much for someone and have them just fill you, and a person will never fill you. You know, it's the security can be an idol. So I had to end that, and that was like so painful. It's still painful to this day, um, to let go of some of these things. And you know, you start to fall into this, getting like persecuted lately. I've been feeling that with multiple people and just like family and relationships and all these things. And you're like, it's kind of nice because it feels true. It feels like, okay, there's like, you know, Jesus not only said these things would happen, but he was like right about all this stuff. And when I finally started to just see um how true it was, it was amazing. I was like, oh, this is the real deal. And I finally found it. And now I've just been seeking after it 100%, but it's not how I thought it was. You know what I mean? Some people talk about Jesus like he's like so compassionate. And he's like a, you know, hippie and stuff. I'm like, have you like read the New Testament? Because he intimidates me like no one else. He talks like nobody else. It's like, and I see this with some people. They conform their image of who they want Jesus to be, and they want him to fall in line with the way they live. It's like, hold on, no, 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 no. Like you can tell, like you better get your stuff straight, fall in line and obey that, or like you're gonna be out on that one. Um, so I pray that every day. It's like, Lord, don't let me make you who I want you to be. Be exactly who you are. Show me that, and like I will fall in line, and I'll do what you need me to do. You know, I got a servant's heart, and it's like I'm ready to serve and I'm ready to love and do these things. And um, it's just, yeah, it's wild. And I've had very intense experiences with the Holy Spirit, and like knowing things about people that I don't know, and like going and talking to them with full confidence and faith that I know their situation. That's exactly what it was. And you know, they've been like awestruck. And there's another thing that's been cool is like I can tell who's a genuine Christian by their eyes when I see them. I think I've said it's like 8 or 9 people so far, and every time it's been correct. And I was like, this is like wild. So um, that's kind of what led me to God. I think it's a bunch of like pain. It's a bunch of pain that led me to God. But the most interesting thing I've learned is to stop focusing so much inward on your pain, and like turn that pain inside out and push it out and like heal people with your pain. And I mean, that's definitely been a big factor of um, help to me to get over my own issues and woes and stuff. It's like to just try to get out of my own head and just serve and fall in line and obey and be obedient, and you know, just realize the sin that we're in and that he sets us free from. It's like, you know, we don't achieve our identity, but we receive it. And, you know, we got to give up who we think we are sometimes, because who we think we are is so fragile, and it's built on a house of cards. And it only takes one card out of that stack to be pulled from who you think you are, and then you realize how weak you are. So I've been doing a ton of time just like isolating and being alone, and just literally just focusing on my relationship with Christ, because I've been there and I know what it looks like to get wrecked. And it's not a good time. So that's pretty much what brought me to God. It's like never comfort, you know. it's a it's a byproduct sometimes, but not often. I'm looking for truth, and I'm just looking for something to hold on to, cling on to, that's real. Um, and and Christ is the only thing I can think of that's worth anything. It's nothing else. We got our kids and our relationships and our loved ones, but that can be taken away so quickly too. And you got to be ready for all that. If you base your security and your identity on the people around you, it's like wait till they get taken away, and you're just gonna fall apart. You're gonna fall apart. Or wait till yourself gets taken away, your own identity, who you think you are. Wait till something comes and that veil lifts, and you realize, like, man, I was not who I thought I was. It only takes one knock on the head to turn you into a different person. So, be grateful, and if you guys got any things, and tell me what you think about maybe how you came to God or to Jesus or whatever. That'd be cool.